10 years ago, a young, ambitious woman committed an unforgivable act. She drove the only man who ever loved her, a sick, black single dad, up into the winter mountains and abandoned him in the freezing cold to die. She thought he would perish in silence, taking her shameful secret about her poor past with him. But she was wrong. He survived. And now, as she stands at the peak of her billion-dollar empire, the man she betrayed has returned. One truth will destroy everything she built. What makes this powerful woman tremble when facing him again? Drayton stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of her corner office on the 42nd floor, watching the city lights flicker to life below. At 38, she had built an empire. Her tech startup was worth over $3 billion, and in 2 weeks, it would go public. The IPO would make her one of the youngest self-made female billionaires in America. Self-made. That word tasted like ash in her mouth every time she said it. The intercom buzzed. Her assistant's voice crackled through. "Ms. Drayton, the legal team is ready for the final background check review." She smoothed her designer suit and picked up the folder on her desk. Inside were forms requiring every detail of her personal history. Everything that would be scrutinized by investors, partners, and the public before the IPO launched. She had spent 10 years crafting a clean narrative. Orphaned young, raised in foster care, scholarships and hard work. A story of triumph over adversity that played well in magazines and keynote speeches. Was all a lie. Drayton walked into the conference room where 3 lawyers sat with documents spread across the table. Michael Porter, the lead counsel, looked up with his usual efficiency. "Ms. Drayton, we need to finalize Section 7. There's a flagged item about your guardian information between ages 7 and 18. She had prepared for this. As I've stated in my previous filings, I was in the state foster system. My caseworker records were sealed due to a clerical error in the old database." Michael frowned. "The problem is, our biggest investor, Caldwell Holdings, has a strict policy about transparency. They want complete verification of all executive backgrounds before they commit their $200 million. $200 million, the anchor investment that would make or break the IPO. Drayton kept her face calm. "I'll provide whatever documentation they need." But even as she said it, she knew the risk. Any deep dive into her past would eventually lead to one name. The man she had tried to erase from existence. Elias. She had not spoken his name aloud in 10 years. That evening, Drayton swallowed 2 sleeping pills and fell into a heavy sleep. But even the pills could not erase the nightmares. She was driving up a mountain road in winter. Snow falling thick. The man beside her was coughing, his body frail and trembling. He trusted her when she said she was taking him to a good hospital in the mountains. Then she stopped the car, led him to a small clearing, told him to rest while she checked the directions. And then she drove away. In the dream, she could see his face in the rearview mirror, confused at first, then realizing. His mouth opening to call her name. Elias had found her when she was 7 years old. She had been abandoned at a bus station, hungry and alone. He was a security guard working the night shift, an older black man with kind eyes and rough hands. He bought her a sandwich. When she said she did not know where her parents were, he did not call the police. He took her home. Home was a cramped studio apartment. Elias worked 2 jobs, security at night, loading trucks during the day. He had a heart condition that made him tired and breathless, but he never complained. He gave her his bed and slept on the couch. He taught her to read using old newspapers. He walked her to school every morning and picked her up every afternoon. He called her Little One and told her she was smart enough to do anything she wanted. For 11 years, Elias was the only family she had. But as Drayton grew older, shame crept in. She got a scholarship to a prestigious high school across town. Her classmates lived in houses with front lawns. Their parents were lawyers, doctors, engineers. When Elias showed up at her school once to bring her forgotten lunch, she saw the way her classmates looked at him. The old black man in a worn security uniform. She saw their judgment. And she was ashamed. She started avoiding him. When she got into college on a full scholarship, she moved into the dorms and told him she needed space to focus. Elias just hugged her and said he was proud. She stopped visiting, stopped calling, changed her phone number. By the time she graduated and started her company, she had rewritten her entire history. She never mentioned Elias. She convinced herself he was part of a past she had outgrown. Then, 10 years ago, he found her. She had just closed her first major funding round. Her face was in the tech blogs. Her company address was public. Elias walked into her office one afternoon, unannounced, looking older and sicker than she remembered. His breathing was labored. His skin had a gray tinge. He smiled when he saw her. "Little one, look at you." Drayton felt ice flood her veins. Her assistant had already seen him. If anyone asked who he was, if anyone connected them. She ushered him into her office and closed the door. Elias sat down heavily, his hand pressed to his chest. "I'm sorry to come unannounced. I've been sick. The doctors say it's my heart. I don't have much money for treatment. And I thought maybe," she cut him off, "I'll handle it. I'll arrange everything." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you. I knew you'd help." She told him to wait while she made arrangements. But her mind was racing. If he stayed in the city, if he kept showing up, if anyone found out about their connection, her investors would ask questions. Her competitors would dig. The perfect self-made narrative would collapse. She needed him gone. Not just away. Gone. The plan formed quickly. She told Elias she had found an excellent private hospital in the mountains, a place that specialized in heart conditions. She would drive him there herself. Elias trusted her. They left the next morning. She drove for hours, up winding mountain roads, until they were far from the city. The forecast called for snow. The temperature was dropping. She parked at a trailhead where the forest was dense and the nearest town was miles away. She helped Elias out of the car. He was weak, leaning on her. She walked him to a small clearing and told him to rest on a fallen log while she confirmed the directions to the hospital. "You'll be okay here for a few minutes," Drayton said, her voice steady. "I'll be right back." Elias nodded, his breath coming in short gasps. "Thank you for doing this." She walked back to the car, got in, started the engine. In the rearview mirror, she could see him sitting there, small and frail against the trees. She drove away. She took his old cell phone with her, so he could not call for help. 3 days later, she called the police and reported him missing. Search teams went out. The snow had fallen heavily. They found his coat near a rocky ledge. The official assumption was that he had slipped and fallen. After a week, the search was called off. Elias was declared dead. Drayton went back to work. The company grew. Her wealth grew. She bought a penthouse. She gave TED Talks and appeared on magazine covers. But every night, the nightmares came. Now, 10 years later, she was 2 weeks away from the biggest moment of her career. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She picked it up, groggy from the pills. An email from an unknown address. No subject line. She opened it. The message contained only one sentence. "The daughter who abandoned her father. I survived. I want to see you." Below the text was a photo. Her breath stopped. It was Elias's old cell phone, the one she had taken from him, the one she had thrown into a river on her way back from the mountains. And at the bottom of the email, "I'm waiting for you where you left me." Drayton's hands shook so violently she dropped the phone. Elias was alive. Drayton did not sleep for the rest of that night. She sat on her bedroom floor with her laptop open, searching for any trace of Elias. Nothing. It was as if he had vanished completely after that winter 10 years ago. But the email was real. The photo of his phone was real. By dawn, she had made a decision. She called a private investigator named Marcus Webb, who asked no questions and delivered results. "I need you to find someone," Drayton said when he answered. Discreetly. "Name?" Elias Grant. Black male, would be around 70 now. Last known location was the Cascade Mountain region 10 years ago. That's a cold trail. I don't care how cold it is. Find him. At the office that morning, Drayton could barely focus. Around noon, her phone rang. Marcus. "That was faster than I expected," Drayton said, closing her office door. Marcus's voice was cautious. "There's a man matching that description. Lives in a small mountain community called Pine Ridge, about 200 miles north. Locals know him as Old Man Elias." Her throat tightened. "You're sure it's him?" "I'm emailing you a photo now." Drayton opened her laptop. The image loaded slowly. When it appeared, her breath caught. It was Elias. Older, thinner, his hair completely white now. He was standing outside a small cabin, holding a bag of groceries. But he was alive. "Just keep monitoring," Drayton said. "I want to know if he talks to anyone unusual." Over the next 3 days, Drayton began seeing Elias everywhere. A black man in a maintenance uniform in the lobby, a figure in a heavy coat at the crosswalk. Each time, her heart would seize. None of them were him. But the fear remained. At night, the nightmares grew worse. The sleeping pills stopped working. She doubled the dose, then tripled it. On the 4th day, her assistant knocked on her office door with an unusual expression. Nervous. "Ms. Drayton, there's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's urgent. He says his name is Elias." The room tilted. Drayton gripped the edge of her desk. "Tell him I'm not available." Her assistant hesitated. "He said if you won't see him, he'll wait in the lobby." Drayton's mind raced. If Elias sat in her lobby, people would see him. Someone might take a photo, ask questions. "Bring him to conference room C," she said, her voice tight. "The small one. No windows." When she reached the conference room, she stood outside the door for a long moment before opening it. Elias sat at the table, his hands folded in his lap. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken. He wore an old jacket that was too big for his frame. When he saw her, he smiled. "Little one," he said softly, "you've done so well." Drayton closed the door and locked it. She did not sit. "How did you find me?" Elias's smile faded slightly. "Your company address is public. I took a bus. I wanted to see you." "What do you want?" He looked hurt by the question. "I don't want anything. I just wanted to see how you were doing. I'm so proud of you. You sent me an email. You're here to threaten me." Elias shook his head slowly. "I'm not here to threaten anyone. I just wanted you to know I'm still here. That I forgive you." The word hit her like a slap. Forgive. "I don't need your forgiveness," Drayton said, her voice rising. Elias coughed, his body shaking. When he pulled his hand away from his mouth, there were flecks of blood on his palm. "I'm dying," he said quietly. "Lung cancer. Stage 4. The doctors say I have a few months at most. Before I go, I wanted to see you one last time. I wanted you to know that I don't blame you for what happened." Drayton felt something crack inside her chest, but she forced it down. "You need to leave. If anyone sees you here, if anyone connects us, it will destroy everything." Elias looked at her with those same kind eyes she remembered from childhood. "Is that what matters to you? What other people think?" "Yes," she said bluntly. "My entire career depends on my reputation. If people find out about my past, about you, about what I did, it's over. So you did leave me there to die." Elias's voice was not accusatory. It was sad. Drayton said nothing. Elias stood slowly, supporting himself on the table. I won't bother you again, but I want you to know something. I loved you like my own daughter. I gave you everything I had because I believed you were good. I still want to believe that. He walked to the door. Drayton unlocked it for him. He stepped into the hallway, then turned back. If you ever want to talk, I'm at the Pine Ridge community. Anyone there can tell you how to find me. Then he was gone. Drayton stood alone in the conference room, her heart pounding. Something in his eyes had terrified her more than any threat could have. He knew what she had done. He remembered. And he was still alive to tell the story. The next morning, Drayton received an email from her head of PR. The subject line read, "Urgent, potential media issue." She opened it with dread. The email contained a link to a local newspaper website. The headline read, "Mysterious man claims connection to tech billionaire Drayton." Her vision blurred. She forced herself to read. The article was short. A reporter had interviewed an elderly black man named Elias Grant, who claimed to have raised the tech entrepreneur Drayton from childhood. He did not provide many details, only saying that he wanted the public to know he was proud of her accomplishments. He mentioned that they had lost touch over the years, but that he hoped to reconnect. The comment section was already filling up. Who is this man? Why hasn't Drayton ever mentioned him? Drayton's phone started ringing. Her PR team, her lawyers, her board members. She ignored them all and called Marcus. "I saw the article," he said before she could speak. "Make it go away," Drayton said. "I can't delete what's already published. The question is, what do you want to do about the man himself?" If Elias kept talking to reporters, the story would grow. People would dig into her past. The self-made narrative would crumble. "I need to talk to him," she said finally. "Face to face." "I can arrange a meeting." "No, I'll go to him." She hung up and stared at the article again. Elias's face looked calm in the photo, almost peaceful, like a man who had nothing left to lose. That made him dangerous. Drayton told her assistant she was taking a few days off for personal reasons. She packed a bag, got in her car, and drove north toward Pine Ridge. The drive took 4 hours. Pine Ridge was barely a town, a gas station, a general store, a few scattered homes. She stopped at the gas station and asked the attendant where she could find Elias Grant. The man, older with a graying beard, gave her a long look. "You a reporter?" "No." "Family." His expression softened. "Old man Elias is good people. Helped my wife when she was sick." He gave her directions to a cabin on the east side of town. She found it easily. The cabin was small, weather-beaten, with a sagging porch. She parked and sat in the car for a long moment, trying to steady herself. Then she got out and walked to the door. She knocked. The door opened. Elias stood there in a flannel shirt and worn jeans, looking surprised. "You came," he said. "We need to talk." He stepped aside to let her in. The cabin was sparse. A single room with a wood stove, a cot, a small table, and 2 chairs. Elias gestured to one of the chairs. Drayton sat stiffly. He sat across from her, his breathing labored. "Why did you talk to that reporter?" Drayton demanded. "I didn't seek him out," Elias said. "He came to me. I didn't tell him anything bad about you. I only said I was proud." "You're trying to ruin me." Elias looked genuinely confused. "Why would I want that?" "Because of what I did. Because I left you to die." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I don't want revenge. I just want the truth." "The truth will destroy me," Drayton said, her voice shaking. "Everything I've built will be gone." "Then maybe it was built on a weak foundation," Elias said gently. She stood abruptly, knocking the chair back. "You don't get to judge me. You don't know what it's like to fight your way out of poverty, to be looked down on, to have to hide who you are just to survive." Elias looked up at her with those same kind, sad eyes. I know exactly what that's like. I lived it. But I never let it make me cruel. The word hung in the air between them. Cruel. Drayton felt tears stinging her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. What do you want from me? Money? An apology? Just tell me so we can end this. I want you to answer one question honestly, Elias said. Why did you do it? Why did you leave me up there to die? Drayton opened her mouth, but no words came. She had prepared a dozen answers. But standing in front of him now, none of them felt true. Because I was ashamed, she finally whispered. Because I thought if people knew about you, they would never respect me. They would see me as the poor kid you rescued, not the self-made billionaire I pretended to be. So you traded my life for your image. She looked away. Yes. Elias leaned back in his chair. At least you're being honest now. What are you going to do? Drayton asked. Are you going to tell everyone? Destroy me? I'm going to ask you to do something, Elias said. Something that might be harder than anything you've ever done. What? Tell the truth yourself, publicly. Admit what happened. Face the consequences. Drayton laughed bitterly. That's insane. I'd lose everything. Maybe, Elias said. Or maybe you'd finally be free. She stared at him. You don't understand. I can't. Then I'll do it for you, Elias said quietly. I've already recorded a video. My lawyer has it. If something happens to me, or if you refuse to tell the truth, he'll release it. It tells the whole story. Everything. Drayton felt ice flood her veins. You're blackmailing me. I'm giving you a choice, Elias corrected. You can tell the truth on your own terms, or I will tell it on mine. But either way, the truth is coming out. How much time do I have? She asked through clenched teeth. I'm dying, Elias said. I'll be lucky to make it 2 more months, so not long. He coughed again, blood speckling his hand. But before I go, I want to see you do the right thing. Just once. Drayton turned and walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the knob. I hate you, she said without turning around. I know, Elias replied, but I still love you. She left, slamming the door behind her. Drayton drove back to the city in silence. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly, her knuckles turned white. Tell the truth yourself, publicly. Admit what happened. It was impossible. The IPO was 9 days away. Investors had committed hundreds of millions. If she confessed now, everything would collapse. But if she did nothing, Elias would release the video. She would have no control over the narrative. Just raw, damning truth, delivered by a dying man she had betrayed. She was trapped. Back in her penthouse that night, Drayton poured herself a drink. Then another. Then another. The alcohol did not help. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. The story is spreading. 3 more outlets picked it up. Board wants an emergency meeting tomorrow. She threw the phone across the room. The next morning, Drayton sat in the boardroom surrounded by 12 faces, her board of directors. They looked concerned. Some looked angry. Richard Caldwell, the patriarch of Caldwell Holdings, and her biggest investor, spoke first. We've seen the articles. We need to know who this man is and what his connection to you is. Drayton had prepared a statement. Elias Grant was a foster guardian during my childhood. We lost touch years ago. He recently reached out. There's no scandal here. Richard leaned forward. I'm not comfortable with unknowns, especially not this close to the IPO. I want a full background investigation. Drayton felt the trap closing. There's nothing. Then you won't mind the investigation, Richard said. The meeting adjourned. Drayton walked back to her office, her mind racing. An investigation would uncover everything, her lies about her past. Eventually, someone would piece together what happened 10 years ago. The trip to the mountains, Elias's disappearance. She had maybe a week before everything unraveled. That afternoon, her assistant knocked on her door. "Ms. Drayton, there's a call from Pine Ridge Regional Hospital. They say it's urgent." Drayton's stomach dropped. She picked up the phone. A nurse's voice came through. "Is this Ms. Drayton?" "Yes. We have a patient here, Elias Grant. He's listed you as his emergency contact. He was admitted 3 hours ago. His condition is critical. He's asking for you." Drayton's throat tightened. "What happened?" "His cancer has progressed rapidly. His lungs are failing. The doctor estimates he has 48 hours at most." Drayton closed her eyes. "I'll be there." The drive back to Pine Ridge took 4 hours. By the time she reached the hospital, it was early evening. She found Elias in a room at the end of the corridor. He was hooked up to machines, oxygen tubes in his nose, an IV in his arm. When she walked in, his eyes opened slowly. "You came," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Drayton stood at the foot of the bed. "The nurse said you asked for me." Elias managed a faint smile. "I have one last request." "What?" "Take me back to the mountain, to the place where you left me. I want to die there." Drayton stared at him. "That's insane. You're dying. You need to be in a hospital." "The doctors say I have 2 days at most," Elias said. "I don't want to die in this bed. I want to die where it all ended, where you made your choice." "Why?" "Because I want you to see it again. I want you to stand there with me and face what you did." Drayton felt anger flare in her chest. "You want me to torture myself?" "I want you to be free," Elias said. "And you can't be free until you face the truth in the place where it happened. And if I do this, if I take you there, then I'll destroy the video. My lawyer has instructions. If you fulfill this request, he'll delete it." Drayton's mind spun. This was her way out. Take him to the mountain. Let him die there. The video would be destroyed. The secret would die with him. "Fine," she said. "I'll arrange it." The next morning, Drayton hired a private medical transport, a van equipped with a stretcher and oxygen. 2 paramedics, who asked no questions when she paid them triple their usual rate. They loaded Elias carefully and began the drive up into the mountains. The weather was cold, just like it had been 10 years ago. Thin snow covered the ground. The trees were bare and skeletal. It took 3 hours to reach the trailhead, the same place she had parked a decade earlier. The paramedics helped move Elias onto a wheelchair. Drayton pushed him along the rough trail, the wheels catching on roots and rocks. Elias said nothing. Finally, they reached the clearing. The fallen log was still there, rotted and covered in moss. The place was unmistakable. Drayton stopped the wheelchair. "This is it." Elias looked around slowly. "I remember. It was colder that day. The snow was falling harder." The paramedics stood back, giving them space. Drayton moved around to face Elias. "You sat right there," Elias said, gesturing to the log. "You told me to rest while you checked directions to the hospital. I believed you. I trusted you completely." Drayton said nothing. "Do you remember what you were thinking when you drove away?" Elias asked. She looked at the ground. "I was thinking that I had no choice, that it was you or my future. And I chose my future." "Did it feel like a choice? Or did it feel like survival?" "Both," Drayton said quietly. Elias coughed, his body shaking. Blood appeared on his lips. He wiped it away with a trembling hand. "Can I tell you what I thought that day?" he asked. Drayton looked at him. "When I realized you weren't coming back, I didn't think about the cold, or the pain, or dying. I thought about you. About the little girl I found at the bus station. The one who was so scared and hungry. I thought about all the nights I stayed up worried when you had a fever. All the times I went without food so you could eat." His voice cracked. "And I thought, where did I fail? What did I do wrong that made her think I wasn't worth keeping?" Drayton felt something break inside her chest. Tears spilled down her face before she could stop them. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said, her voice shaking. "I did. I was selfish and cruel, and I—" Her words dissolved into sobs. She collapsed onto her knees in the snow in front of him. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve anything." Elias reached out with a trembling hand and touched her head. "You're right. You don't deserve it. But I'm giving it to you anyway. Because that's what love does." Drayton looked up at him through her tears. "How can you still love me after what I did?" "Because you're still the little girl I found," Elias said softly. "You're just lost and scared. And you've been running from yourself for so long you forgot who you really are." "I don't know who I am anymore," Drayton whispered. "Then it's time to find out," Elias said. "And you can't do that while living a lie." They sat in silence for a long moment. The wind moved through the trees. Snow began to fall lightly. "If I tell the truth," Drayton said finally, "I lose everything." "Maybe," Elias said. "Or maybe you gain something more important." "What?" "Your soul." Drayton looked at him. His face was pale, his breathing shallow. He was dying, right here in front of her. And this was her last chance. "If I tell the truth publicly," she said, "will you forgive me? Really forgive me?" "I already have," Elias said. "I forgave you the moment I woke up in that hunter's cabin and realized I was still alive. I forgave you every day for 10 years. I was just waiting for you to be ready to receive it." Something shifted in Drayton's chest. A weight she had carried for a decade began to lift. "I'll do it," she said. "I'll tell the truth. All of it." Elias smiled. It was weak, but genuine. "Good." The paramedics helped them get Elias back into the van. His breathing was labored now, each breath a struggle. By the time they reached the hospital, he had slipped into unconsciousness. The doctors rushed him into the ICU. A doctor emerged and told her gently that Elias had stabilized, but likely had less than 48 hours. "He's awake now," the doctor said, "if you want to see him." Drayton went in. Elias looked even frailer than before, but his eyes were clear. "I need to make a phone call," Drayton said, "to my PR team. I'm going to schedule a press conference for tomorrow morning." Elias nodded slowly. "Thank you." "I'm not doing it for you," Drayton said. "I'm doing it because you're right. I can't live like this anymore." She left the room and made the call. Her PR director was confused, then alarmed. There were protests, arguments. Drayton ignored them all. "Schedule it for 10 a.m. tomorrow," she said. "Major networks, live stream. I want everyone to see." That night, Drayton sat beside Elias's hospital bed and wrote her statement. She did not sleep. By dawn, she had filled 6 pages. The truth. All of it. At 9:30, she left the hospital and drove to her company headquarters. A crowd of reporters had already gathered outside. Her board members stood in the lobby, looking furious. Richard Caldwell blocked her path. "What do you think you're doing? If you're about to say what I think you're about to say, we'll have no choice but to remove you immediately." "I know," Drayton said calmly. "Do what you have to do. But I'm telling the truth today." She walked past him into the conference room where the cameras were set up. She stood behind the podium. The room fell silent. Drayton looked directly into the cameras and began to speak. "My name is Drayton, and I am not who I've claimed to be. I've built my reputation on a lie, and today I'm going to tell you the truth." She spoke for 20 minutes. She told them about Elias, about her childhood, about her shame and her lies. She told them about the day she drove him into the mountains and left him to die. She told them about his survival, about his cancer, about his forgiveness. When she finished, the room was silent. Then the questions began. Shouted, overlapping, accusatory. Drayton answered them all honestly. Yes, she had committed a crime. Yes, she had lied for 10 years. Yes, she was stepping down as CEO effective immediately. Yes, she was donating her personal fortune to establish a foundation for single parents in poverty. The press conference lasted 2 hours. By the end, Drayton felt hollow. Empty, but also lighter than she had felt in years. She drove back to the hospital. The nurses told her Elias had been watching the press conference on the television in his room. When she walked in, he was smiling. "You did it," he said, his voice barely audible. "I did," Drayton said. She sat beside his bed and took his hand. "I'm proud of you," Elias whispered. Tears streamed down her face. "I love you. I should have said it a long time ago, but I love you." "I know," Elias said. "I've always known." His eyes closed, his breathing slowed. Drayton held his hand and sang softly, the lullaby he used to sing to her when she was small and frightened. Elias died just after midnight, his hand still in hers, a peaceful expression on his face. 1 year later, Drayton stood at the edge of the mountain clearing. It was winter again. Snow covered the ground, but this time she wasn't running. She had lost everything that year: the company, the wealth, the reputation. But she had gained something more valuable. Billionaire, the foundation she had established, named after Elias, had helped thousands of single parents escape poverty. She managed it personally, working long hours, visiting families, listening to their stories. She placed a bouquet of flowers beside the small stone marker she had installed in the clearing. It read, "Elias Grant, a father who taught love through forgiveness, and a daughter who learned redemption through truth." Drayton knelt in the snow and opened the old cell phone she now carried with her everywhere. Inside was a text message draft Elias had written, but never sent. His lawyer had found it after he died. "Daughter, if you read this, I am gone. I want you to know I never regretted raising you. You were the greatest gift of my life. Live well. Love well. Forgive well. I will always be proud of you. Dad." Drayton read the words one more time, then stood. She looked down at the valley below, where a community center now stood, a place where struggling fathers could find support, just as Elias had once struggled alone. The wind moved through the trees. Snow began to fall. Drayton smiled. For the first time in 10 years, she felt whole. Some sins cannot be erased, but they can be redeemed, through truth, through courage, and through a lifetime spent making amends.